Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric E. Lopkin. A lot of stuff on the plate this week, as usual, as we head into the thick of the campaign season. And just a day ago, we have a guilty verdict for Hunter Biden, and Joe being Father of the Year. He's getting the award shortly. Your thoughts, and just want to interject, it certainly substantiates the whole laptop thing. I think that's one of the bigger implications in terms of as we get into the debate, plus the 61 individuals coming from the intelligence services that swore that it was Russian disinformation. Your thoughts, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, those 51 intelligence operatives need to lose their security clearance. The Justice Department authenticated Hunter Biden's laptop. I think that is the biggest thing to come out of this trial, which means
100%.
The emails about paying the big guy are true. The mentions by Hunter Biden referring to his father as Pedo Pete, that's pedo as in pedophile, are accurate.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yes, all of this has now been authenticated. So that not only do you have all of these charges that could be brought against both Hunter and his father, but now you have Biden lying through his teeth in the 2020 debate, saying, no, it's all Russian disinformation, it's fake. No, it isn't. Why is that important? Because polls have shown that if Joe Biden's supporters, this is just his supporters, not the voters in general, his supporters would not have voted for him if they knew the laptop was real. Well, now we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the laptop has been authenticated.
Well said, 100%. I also have much more of a minor degree, but I think it's still notable that during the debate, and I believe in interactions, I think the whole convicted felon for Trump blows out the window.
Yes, because now anytime they say convicted felon, it's like, well, so is his kid, so is Biden's kids. Something else that went on during the trial that as a taxpayer aggravates me and has not gotten a lot of coverage is that the taxpayer is on the hook for almost $350,000 to pay for Jill Biden's travel so that she could go back and forth between her criminal son and her mentally handicapped husband, because God forbid either one of them could have gone a week without her.
100%. Let's throw in a little bit of jury intimidation, but there you go, because she was not exactly the loving mother. And that also is referenced in the laptop from Mel. Well done, Dr. Lopkin, as always. And we have the landing of D-Day in Normandy, or the landing on Normandy on D-Day, and we had the landing of Uncle Joe in Normandy, not exactly at the same caliber. Correct, my friend?
Definitely not. And, I think it's important to remind our listeners that this 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion is probably the last major milestone of D-Day that will be able to include soldiers that were actually there. It's unlikely that they're going to still be around when it comes to 85 or 90 years. So this was a major ceremony, and Joe Biden flew to France, called the lid on his day immediately upon landing. Nobody saw him until he took the stage for his speech. He shuffled around. They had to lead him off. he gave his speech, and I'll be honest, watching the speech, I was just glad he got the date right. But he was.
May I interject something about the speech, my friend?
Go ahead.
You know something? Someone did a side by side. A leopard doesn't change its spots. A lot of it was ripped off from Reagan 40 years ago.
Yes, he was trying to channel Ronald Reagan, and
God help me.
I mean, yeah, he ripped off a lot of the speech, which, let's face it, everybody knows Joe Biden is a plagiarist. He had to drop out of running for president back in the 90s because of plagiarism. So this is nothing new. But he was not there. He was his aides were able to get him propped up at the podium long enough for him to give a speech, and then that was pretty much it. Everybody else was around. They were talking. He had to sit down. He wasn't even capable of standing there and having a conversation with world leaders.
He did take a little nap. That reminds me of when they were loading the coffins off the transport plane through his screw up in Afghanistan. These people, like you said, they're in their late 90s, mid to late 90s. They will not be around for too much longer. They are genuine heroes. And this shithead takes a little nap. He's not Uncle Joe. He's not Scranton Joe. He's always been a self-absorbed piece of shit.
Yes, he is. And, his actions have major consequences. Now, I mean, this speech was a minor consequence, although there is quite a lot of video floating out there where he did this, I'm going to say, mysterious squat, which is not mysterious to anybody who is a parent of young children. We've all seen the squat. We know what he was doing. And, really, he can't even control his own bowels. How are we supposed to believe he can control the nation? He's just...
That is 100% correct. And what's really interesting? I'm sure many, because I know I would, and they were true heroes. Some of the people, getting out of the Higgins, landing on the beach from the Higgins boat, probably shit their pants. So that's the only thing that Biden has in common with these heroes.
Yes,
there you go. And then he also returned to the June 19th celebration or festivities, which also looked just pathetic. And he looked literally like a walking zombie. And before we talk about that, I want to also just get your opinion on how embarrassing and humiliating was it for America and for these brave soldiers, okay? More guts than I would ever have. They had Macron, the leader of France, had to talk with them while Uncle Joe went to the bathroom to change his diaper. Is that disgusting? It's embarrassing. It's insulting.
It is a national embarrassment. He should never have been put up as the presidential candidate in 2020 because they knew this was Joe Biden. Now it is absolutely inexcusable that they are pushing him for another 4-year term. 4 years from now, he's not going to know his own name.
I don't know if he knows it now. And also, let's talk about that. How about Mayor Garland, right? Basically being subpoenaed for the tapes of Joe being questioned about his documents case. I think that's interesting because I think that would blow up the election. If the United States population actually, it's one thing talking about it, and he's taking a shit and all that kind of stuff, but it goes into the stratosphere. But if you actually heard it verbatim, I believe it would be shocking.
Yeah, and the thing is, there is no justification for withholding the recording other than political gain. The Justice Department and Garland do not have the ability to defy a congressional subpoena. That is the law of the land. They are required to comply with that. The White House has claimed executive privilege not to let this out, but that makes no sense because the transcript was already out. So the information is already out in public. So there is no executive privilege for the recording. And the White House has already stated that, yes, the transcript was altered. They said they deleted when he would repeat himself, when he would say, when he would go and. So they've admitted to deleting those things from the transcript. Well, when Robert Hur says, I'm not going to bring charges because he is not mentally fit to stand trial, the Congressional Oversight Committee certainly, and the American public have the right to hear the evidence that made him make that decision.
Do you think it will see the light of day? Because you bring a lot of good arguments to this. I thought it had no chance. Now I'm thinking it might have a slight chance. It would blow up the election. It's over.
Well,
I don't in the right-hander.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance it's going to see the light of day, because after Congress finds Merrick Garland in contempt, enforcement of that contempt decree is up to the Justice Department. So they're clearly not going to enforce the contempt charge against themselves.
Well said. A report that just came out this week that substantiates Uncle Joe's performance at the White House the other day and at D-Day and throughout the course of his presidency was the Wall Street Journal report, unlike MSNBC, an actually well-researched and documented a report that basically stated, no, he's not the sharpest guy behind the scenes. He's Uncle Joe. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Is it about what we've talked about for a long time? These things don't happen by accident. Is it? Do they want to build a case for his ejection?
Well, I don't think they leaked this. The Wall Street Journal actually went out and they interviewed 45 different people, both Republicans and Democrats, who were in meetings with the president. And they said, yes, there were a couple of people that went, oh, no, he's a dynamo. But the vast majority of people on both sides said, no, there has been significant deterioration since 2020. He is not the dynamo the White House has tried to make him out to be. And the White House then put pressure on some of those Democrats to call the Journal back and tell them, well, no, I just want to clarify what I said. No, he's got all the energy. He's there. And one of these Democrats went on the record with the Wall Street Journal saying, the White House requested that I call you back to tell you this.
A fascinating piece. Again, you're not going to see this on MSNBC, but interesting. But that leads me to the natural question, Dr. Lopkin. The debates coming up the 27th, and on that note, we're going to be doing our show on Friday. That's the 28th, because we want to take that into account. Obviously, we don't want that missed opportunity. Number one, you might think it's a rhetorical question, but I'm not completely sure. Does he actually debate? Because after what I saw on D-Day, yikes. And do you agree with Mr. Jeffrey L. Sherman that it's make or break for Uncle Joe?
I do agree that it's make or break. I do think he is going to debate. The White House has already announced that when he returns in a few days from the G7 summit, he is going to spend the next week and a half or so at Camp David in debate prep. This is more than studying the issues. This means he is not going to be seen in public. So he is going to be sleeping 12 hours, 15 hours a day for a week and a half just to get him ready for that 2-hour debate.
Because they know it's make or break. I will say also, recalling my days in college, that that's not always a good thing, Dr. Loppin. Overstudying can, and especially when you have a distorted and deteriorated brain, can basically work against you and backfire.
It can work against you, and it's not even a matter of his deteriorating brain, because if we go back to 2016, Hillary did the same thing before the first debate, vanishing for almost 2 weeks so she could do debate prep. Meanwhile, Trump was crisscrossing the country, actually talking to voters, and there are a lot of people that say that was the beginning of the end of her campaign.
It was, yes, 100%. Yeah, it's gonna be. I think it is. I agree with you. He will do the debate, and I think it is make or break. If and I don't care if he's on all Adderall and all that stuff. Juiced up Joe, if he's incoherent, he's still incoherent. So I think it's must see TV, and I'm glad we're doing the podcast the following day. I think it's very important. Also, what's important is both Uncle Joe and Kamala are around 37% approval. Biden's more approaching 38%, but those are the lowest numbers. Let's just talk about Uncle Joe. That basically you're losing if you're at 42, because they actually reflect almost directly your vote percentage. No president has won below 40.
Well, not only
40 below 40.
Yeah. Not only has no president won election with an approval rating less than 40, this is not just Joe Biden's lowest approval rating. It is the lowest approval rating of any president in modern history. So the fact that his approval rating is that low and Kamala Harris's is just about at the same point does not bode well for him. The American people see what's going on. They feel in their pocketbooks the pressure he's put on them. And his actions have shown what this administration has been about. Case in point, over the weekend, Donald Trump had a campaign rally in Las Vegas. And not only did he raise a whole lot of funds there and have a huge crowd, but he discussed his idea that tips should not be taxed. Well,
you can put Nevada in his column,
right?
From that remark.
This stood in extremely sharp contrast to the Biden administration, who, after budgeting a massive increase in the IRS budget, did he go after millionaires and billionaires like he planned to? No. Did he stick to his guns and only go after those that made over $400,000 a year? No. The first targets he did were waiters and waitresses who were underreporting their tips.
But I thought he's Scranton Joe. What's going on here? He's Las Vegas, by the way. I mean, he's lost Nevada. It's over.
It does look like the recent polls have Trump and Biden roughly neck and neck. Biden trounced Trump in 2020 in Nevada, and there's a couple of states where Biden won by double digits that he's now either losing or in a statistical dead heat with Trump.
The state that is most important on that subject is Virginia. He's literally tied with Trump. If he loses Virginia, it's called check, please. Doesn't even need the
Yeah.
Rust Belt.
It looks like
please.
it looks like he's going to lose Virginia. It looks like he may lose Minnesota, which has not voted for a Republican president since Richard Nixon.
Reagan.
No.
Oh yeah, you're
Reagan
right.
long.
You're right. You're right.
Reagan long. Yeah. That was the one state Reagan lost. They have not voted Republican for a president since Richard Nixon.
Interesting. Yes, it is interesting. But on a related topic, Trump. I've done a lot of research. There's an ABC poll that has Biden ahead, but that's kind of a little bit of an outliner. It's still within the margin of error. Trump's ahead in the popular vote around two. But I've seen more and more people weighing in, thinking that, I wouldn't assume that there's going to be no jail time. That there are an appreciable number of political contributors on the journalistic side that think that he will get Dershowitz believes he's going to get 60 days, but a suspended sentence to send the signal. There's others thinking that they've done all this already. The other cases are blowing up. Jack Smith, the Fannie Willis, all that crap. So they need Trump in a jumpsuit.
Yeah, if Trump spends a night at Rikers Island, they have just given him the White House.
100%. And do you know something? Just like him, a great mind, Victor Hansen. I love the guy. PragerU, I believe, and the Hoover Institute said the same thing about a month ago, is that you'll be giving Donald J. Trump the election. And the African-American community, especially males, he'll uptick at least probably 10%. And wait a second, on that point, I did not write it down. What do you think of this concept? I don't know where I heard it, but I found it fascinating, Dr. Lopkin. I'd love your take on this. Is that it was the Republicans back in the day, you talk about Richard Nixon, that used to be the man. The Democrats are the man.
Oh, yes. The Democrats are the establishment. They are the men. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been saying that for years. Why he doesn't just leave the party altogether, I don't know. He loves
the limelight.
Yeah, he would rather try to take over the party with his wackos on the left. But yes, the Democratic Party is the man now. And in fact, they have essentially martyred Donald Trump. He is now the rebel with a cause. He is railing against the system. He is fighting the man. And this used to be the Democratic Party. This used to be, San Francisco and UC Berkeley and the hippie movement. They were the ones railing against the man, and this is no longer the case. Now the far left of the Democratic Party is gone completely off the rails, and now it's the Republicans that are trying to rein in this political corruption, which is absolutely amazing. And it should be pointed out, the Democrats have allowed the left wing of their party to take them hostage. The Republicans could have done the same thing, letting the right wing take over, but they have been slapping Matt Gaetz down. They have been slapping Marjorie Taylor Greene down.
100%.
They have been telling the wackos in their own party, enough is enough. And that is the only hope that Biden has for a win, is if he finally stands up to the left wing of his party and says, enough is enough, let the grown-ups talk, go sit in a corner.
And the chances of that happening, Dr. Lopkin,
somewhere between slim and none.
Playing in MLB Network. Yes, there you go. Me suiting up for the Red Sox. 0. I think that's really interesting. Also, what I think is to talk about about fighting the man. The father of the Black Panthers, don't recall his name, it's really not that important, came out supporting Trump. the whole shtick is imploding, isn't it? Let's just cut the shit.
It is, because the Democrats have gone so far off the rail. Again, you have the founder of the Black Panthers siding with Trump. You have also this week the son of the founder of Hamas saying in an interview that these left-wing kids protesting on college campuses are morons. They don't know what's going on. They don't have a clue. They have been indoctrinated by the left. And even the son of the founder of Hamas is going, you people are idiots.
100%. Again, we talked about that, and we're not going to spend any time on it, but I think it is a fascinating point, and I love the self-destruction of the left, because Harvard, Yale, I've talked to many people in business that basically they run for the hills. They used to be, they'd be fighting for someone from Yale or Harvard. Now it's like, yeah, we'll go to a good school like UConn, but we don't need the craziness. And it goes to the point, yeah, you can blame the kids, but it's what you said, what are they learning in these friggin' institutions? Not much. They don't know anything. And Victor Hansen says that as well. It's like, 50 years ago, they would be talking about the Pythagorean theorem and, have real knowledge. He goes, they have no knowledge. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
I know, they have no clue.
Hire them to Jiffy Lube. How do you like that?
They have no clue what they're talking about. They obviously have not been learning anything. I don't remember who said it, but I loved the comment. These kids couldn't find Gaza on a map of Gaza.
No, definitely not. And I love, just like actors do this, they assume the part. Like De Niro thinks he's like a tough guy. I haven't been in a fight in like 40 years. I'd probably beat the shit out of with like one arm. He's like 5'3", but he thinks he's like, he thinks he's playing in, in the mob, and he's, all this kind of stuff. So same thing with it's just absolutely ridiculous. And they think they're they think they're under siege, like this idiot from Colombia, I forgot her name, a complete moron, the one demanding gluten-free and said that we need to be on the meal plan because we're under siege. These people are insane.
Yeah, when you take
and wait, I have to ask you one question. Please tell me, Dr. Lopkin, on a scale of 1 to 10, her chances of getting a real job. Please tell me.
I'm going to put it around 2. I'd love to say 0, but there are left-wing wackos running companies that will still hire. But I'm going to put it around 2. Because the fact of the matter is, when you barricade yourself in a building, when you take hostages in that building, you're not the one under siege.
There you go. And do you know what her major is? As we continue our admiration for the Ivy League, I cannot actually tell you what it is. It was something like poverty under the guise of something like nuclear fusion due to capitalism. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So basically, she majored in communism. That's what she majored in.
There you go. Yeah. Well, communism would make more sense. I mean, it was like, and so you think of this. What does this mean to me? It means how. So the head of her department, whatever it was, of sociology, said, "Oh, excellent. Why don't you run with that?" Instead of saying, "What the F is that? I don't even know what you're talking about." Anyway, I think that was funny. Also, speaking of funny, I do think this is very funny. We have, before you do the funny, you're talking about people leaving Biden and the wacko Democrats. It used to be hand in hand was tech and the libs, no question. Well, Trump went to San Francisco. By the way, when Biden goes to San Francisco, people are going F you, even in San Francisco and in Scranton, where Uncle Joe's from. But then Trump raised millions. You couldn't even, there was like a billionaire investor that couldn't even get into the event because, and I heard a really good commentary on this, that, tech is now behind Trump. Yeah, of course, there's Google and Zuckerberg, whatever. But a lot of tech is behind Trump, and a lot of it has to do with AI is the next internet. I think it was Charles Payne said this, one of your who you worked with, saying that, yes, if they had the same kind of basically need to regulate back in the late 80s and 90s, we would never have had the internet like it is today. So people in tech are fearful because the Biden administration never met something they didn't like to regulate, like his predecessor Obama. So they're scared that, we have, just like the internet, the United States at this particular point in time has a leg up on the future, which is AI. And this idiot who's never worked a day in his life, and the 30-year-old Ivy League people that work for him, who actually call the shots, are going to say, "Oh, we did it with this rate," and then basically blow the lead. Correct?
Yeah, Silicon Valley is no longer united behind the Democrats. Not only have you had AI companies and a lot of folks from Silicon Valley backing Donald Trump, you have some major venture capitalists from Silicon Valley who were at this Trump event who are supporting Donald Trump. And the Democrats are realizing that there are cracks in their facade now, because there's a brand new super PAC to push Biden from Hollywood, and they are hiring writers from Saturday Night Live and Parks and Recreation to try to put together these short documentary spots, making Joe Biden look like he's energetic, look like he is the dynamo that they keep talking about. And I think at this point, if they can pull that off, there will be a new Emmy category for reinvigoration of a corpse.
If they can do that, they would make the greatest directors of all time look like child's play. That, I have to say, I wouldn't agree with it, but I'd have to shake their hands because they'd be truly brilliant, something you don't really see in Hollywood a lot. But yeah, I did see that happening. Also, you talk about the crazy side of life, and there's no more crazier people than Rachel Maddow and AOC. Rachel's just nuts, probably relatively smart. AOC's nuts and pretty much stupid. In fact, someone called her the dumbest person in Congress, and the third dumbest was the guy who pulled the fire alarm, who was an ex-principal but didn't know that a fire alarm was a fire. Thought it was the electric door. Yeah, a real genius. Also a nice anti-Semite. But yeah, they both think that, and talk about egos, doctor. They think that if Trump gets elected, he's going to put them in like basically camps. That's like the guy, I forgot his name. He has a 10 o'clock show on MSNBC, and he was talking about how Trump was looking at him at the trial. And Victor Hanson said, Trump doesn't even know who this guy is. He has like 5 people watching him. So I love this self-centeredness and grandiosity of these mental midgets. Especially AOC.
It is amazing. AOC saying she's afraid that Trump is going to throw her in jail. Rachel Maddow said that Trump had announced plans to build camps to put the migrants in, and don't think he'll stop at the migrants, is what she had said. It is absolutely ridiculous. And all anybody needs to do is go back to 2016, when Hillary Clinton committed actual crimes during the election, with Trump supporters shouting and chanting, "Lock her up." And Donald Trump said, "No, we need to move on." Okay? If anybody was going to be locked up, Hillary would have been in jail. So these stories that he's going to arrest people, and it is abject bullshit.
Well, that is from AOC and Rachel.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
She built her whole network. And anyone, I'm sorry to say, except a child that maybe is in the room just by default, anyone that's watching Rachel Maddow, please lock yourself up. Just do society a favor. You are a moron.
No. They don't need to lock themselves up. What we do need them to do is take a nice large piece of aluminum foil and make a hat and wear the
Excellent.
tinfoil hat so that we know who you are. And when you talk, we know not to listen to you.
Love that. Only Dr. Lopkin, 100% agreed. In our little home state, it is a little home state of Wethersfield, Connecticut. They had a trooper that was killed. He left a wife and 2 kids. And one of the key governmental leaders in this small little town thought it was a good idea not to have the thin blue line flag, but in its place, put the gay pride flag up. I consider him a complete despicable shithead. How do you like that?
It is absolutely despicable. And I think it's important to bring up the point for our listeners that the police officer in question was not gay. So they were not putting up this flag in his honor. They were disrespecting him because they thought the thin blue line flag would be offensive, and they didn't want to offend the wackos on the left. So they put up a gay pride flag instead. Gay pride had nothing to do with this. This was about honoring a fallen police officer. And Wethersfield has been absolutely ridiculed coast to coast for this decision.
Yeah, this guy needs to be voted out like immediately, but he is a boy genius, like most of the people on the left. You know, his assertion that the flag is racist was based on well-done investigation. I know that, you know, when I tell my students to do a research project, the first thing I tell them is when we talk about reliable sources, probably the most reliable one to go to right off the bat is Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that's what he based it on, the boy genius.
Wikipedia should never be relied on as a reference.
No.
Not
you can't, wait, just to put in perspective. You can't, you basically, it will be a big negative on your grade if that's one of your sources. It's not admissible as a source.
Yeah, most reputable professors will not accept Wikipedia as a source. Now, there was a time where, for scientific principles, Wikipedia was considered accurate. Now it has gone, you know, so far over the edge that a report came out last week. If you actually go to Wikipedia, the first thing you will see is not your Wikipedia entry, but their fundraising appeal. You know, please give us money so we can keep this going. A report came out last week saying you should not be giving Wikipedia money because only about 10% of their donations are actually used to run the site. The rest are given to outrageously high salaries for these people who don't do anything. They're, you know, all of their content comes from users.
Where do I sign up for that job?
Yeah. So, yes,
out.
Not only should you not be using Wikipedia as a source, you should not be giving them money. You should be going elsewhere for any information.
Thank you. And certainly you should do a little, you lazy asshole. You should be doing a little more research if you're going to impact the emotional state of a grieving wife, okay? The family.
And their children, yes.
This, and their children. Thank you very much. You may want to get off your ass and maybe actually do some research. Or how about give a call to the police department and ask them what the flag means, genius, boy genius. And speaking of geniuses, we have those protesters we mentioned a while ago, and they have a lot of extensive knowledge about Gaza and Hamas and all that stuff. Well, the artificial port that Uncle Joe put into place just to placate the people from Michigan, of course, comes under daily fire from Hamas. Did you know that, Dr. Lopkin?
Yes, the Hamas terrorists
Humanitarian aid.
Trying to blow up the dock that was built to get food and aid to the Palestinian people. Now, this is not the IDF firing on the dock. This is Hamas. And some of these rockets have actually been coming from Rafah, where the Biden administration told the Israelis not to go into. They're blowing up aid for their own people. The UN has officially suspended aid shipments to that dock because it's just too dangerous. So we just wasted $1 billion or so building this useless dock, which, by the way, was damaged even before they started firing on it. Just another,
Yeah,
another
you know,
example
wait
of
a second,
brilliance from the administration.
yeah, and if you're at, the Ivy League, you are Hamas, aren't you? Yeah. Man, you maybe want to restudy that. But there's also an expansion of the war. Hezbollah fired rockets into Israel unsuccessfully, but it's certainly a lot hotter with Uncle Joe than the so-called racist Trump.
Yeah, this is something that happened about an hour before we went on the air. Hezbollah fired 200 missiles into Israel. The IDF reports that they were able to blow them up using the Iron Dome and other defenses. So there were no Israeli casualties. But this does mark an escalation in the Israeli war. So now they are fighting a war on two fronts. They were trying to avoid that. And Iran is sitting back funding all of this with money that came from Biden ignoring their sanctions and loosening the rules so that they could make more money and fund these terrorist groups.
What did Gates say about 15 years ago, Dr. Lopkin?
Well, Gates said,
former Secretary of Defense.
Yes, Gates said that Joe Biden had been on the wrong side of every foreign policy decision for 50 years. I actually think it's more effective to go to Barack Obama's quote from Politico magazine: "Never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up."
True. Yes, very, very true. We also look at, looks like interest rates are going to pretty much hold steady, aren't they, as home buying becomes more and more of an illusion.
Yeah, we had some major numbers come out today. Inflation month over month was flat for the first time during the Biden administration. So that was a good number. However, it's still 3.3% year over year. That means it's higher than when it was up 9% month over month. It is now one of the highest inflation rates in U.S. history. So the Fed has halted their plans for interest rate cuts. And they've said now they are calculating no more than one interest rate cut this year, which means your mortgage rates are going to stay high, your credit card interest rates are going to stay high, any loan is going to stay with high interest, because again, we are now at the highest interest rate in over 20 years.
Thank you, Uncle Joe. And by the way, the inflation rate is worse than you think, because I believe it was Obama that took out two key ingredients. I think the real inflation rate, at least at its peak, was around 20%. Thank you again, Uncle Joe. Ending on kind of a lighter note, I saw a little video that we discussed before as we prepared for the show, and what liberals think. And they went to the Ivy League prestigious institutions, young people and some older that pretty much never worked a day in their lives, but that's another story. Asked them, what do you think about voting rights and voter ID? And they were saying, well, I think it's racist. Why is it racist? Because blacks don't have ID, and they really can't use the internet to get it, blah, blah, blah. And then the same interviewer went back to Harlem and asked them, hey, you guys have ID? And they're like, yeah, we all have ID. And some people say that you don't know how to use the internet. Like, what? They're looking at them like they have 5 eyes. So it just shows you, just like Charles Payne said, he never met or encountered more below the surface racism than he experienced in good old New York City.
Yeah,
think that
it
speaks
is
volumes.
absolutely amazing that there are still people that think this way. The African American community is more than capable of doing everything that every other community does. I don't know
Isn't it
any
hysterical, though?
Yeah, I don't know any African Americans that don't have driver's licenses and IDs. I don't know any African Americans that don't know how to use a computer and the internet. I do know some parts of the African American community, even here in Connecticut, that don't have access to the internet at home and have to go to either a school or a library because of the cost.
Which they do.
But yes, but they all know how to use it.
And also, Dr. Locke, most of them have smartphones, which you can access the internet. So, but it's not even the particulars. Who cares? It just shows you what you. If you said that to a person like John, Nancy, whatever. Oh, you don't have to do this because I know you don't. You probably don't have an ID, and I don't know if you can really use the internet. They would say, "How insulting!" You would never say that to someone's face. Don't worry, I'll drive because you probably don't have an ID, and I know it's going to be a little difficult for you to navigate the roads.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And this has become the Democratic Party. They have always, well, you need our help. So don't worry about it. We're here for you. Guess what? This is why so many African Americans are now supporting Trump, because they're saying we're tired of this hypocrisy. We don't need your help. You haven't done anything for us in 40 years. Why should we continue 60 years? Why should we continue to support you?
One thing, Dr. Lopkin, I have to disagree with you on, facetiously, that I don't think they've done nothing for the African Americans. I think it's seriously negatively impacted them. How do you like that, Dr. Lopkin?
This is true. They have had very negative impacts on the state of the African American family, and you have a lot of Black leaders now speaking out about that.
Oh yes, I went. By the way, that's one of the most interesting and pleasurable things I watch. I love it when articulate young Black people, they're not taking the Claibornes of that shit. They're basically racial carpetbaggers, okay? They're old school. They don't speak for Black people at all. But you see young, sharp, articulate Black people saying, like, yeah, they get it. They've been lied to. I think it's blowing up. And they're sick of being – they want a share of the American dream, and they are deserving of that and capable of that. They don't need any bunch of elitists. And you look at what the elitists are from the Ivy League. I don't want them leading me to friggin' Walmart. How do you like that? God rest alone my life. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, I mean, they've been showing time and time again that their policies fail the American people. They fail when they try to pander to a specific group, whether that's African Americans, Hispanics, Jews, men, women. It doesn't matter what the group is. When the Democrats have
wait a
put
second. I got to
forward
interject one thing about the Jews, because you had a great point about that. Time flies. It could have been a couple of years ago. That yes, the Jews, you look for the Democrats to help them for various reasons, maybe anti-Semitism, and now they don't need help. They're actually a threat to the Democratic Party, and I believe that's part of the blatant anti-Israeli sentiment, anti-Semitism that's rampant through the Democratic Party.
Yes, you're seeing rampant anti-Semitism. You're seeing rampant racism in the Democratic Party. When you look at any group, again, I don't care what the group is, any group, and say, well, we know you can't do what everybody else can do, so we're here to help you. That is racist. That is sexist. That is completely unacceptable.
Thank you very much. 100% agree. On a much, much, much lighter note, that's not cricket, anyone. I guess the adage goes, the old British term. But now we can say that, can't we, Dr. Lopkin?
Yes, we can now say that the United States cricket team won the World Cricket Championship. And I'll be honest, I did not know we had a U.S. cricket team.
No, you and I both.
What was really funny is that these are professional cricket players from around the world. These teams are the best of the best when it comes to cricket. The United States cricket team is a part-time team. The team members actually had to take time off of their day jobs so that they can compete in the competition, and they managed to beat the best in the world at cricket.
Pretty cool. I don't think it's ever going to be, top fours, but maybe it might start getting a little bit of interest. I mean, it's an interesting game. I've seen it on TV. You never know. Maybe
I
if
don't
they
know, but
go.
Clearly we're doing better at cricket than we are at soccer. So, maybe we need more cricket players.
Well said, yes. Well, Dr. Lopkin, we will taking a little hiatus for next week, but we will be back on Friday the 28th, won't we?
We will, with a special episode talking about the first Biden-Trump debate. And of course, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think of the debate and what questions you have. So go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page. Let us know what you think. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect. Tell us your opinion. Give us your questions and tell us what you're thinking. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Excellent show.
We'll see you next time.